Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Rewind and Replay. I'm Matan,
I'm Adriana.
And I'm Caitlin.
and today we're doing another best of video, this time on our favorite video game villains.
Dun dun dun!
Yes, gotta get that spooky in for Halloween.
Yes,
Exactly.
happy freaking October!
Yes. As you can see, Adriana and I have the Halloween spirit. Matan is lacking quite a bit.
Yell
I'm
at
like,
him.
I'm like Scrooge, but for Halloween.
So
Well, you could look like Waldo. Do you have a Waldo shirt? Because you're already doing
don't.
the stripes.
I
You
don't
are.
have a Waldo shirt. I think that's cool though. Like a Waldo shirt would be cool. I could
That
put
would be
on a
cool.
non-Waldo beanie with my striped shirt.
Yeah.
Be off
For all
brand
of you guys
Wal- or
listening instead of
Waldo.
watching, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I'm off the hook with those guys.
Yeah.
So I'd like to maintain with our best villains of video game history. These are not anti-heroes. These are not antagonists necessarily. It is villains. It's bad
Yes.
guys.
It is bad guys.
Bad boys.
And that's an
Or
important
girls.
distinction. Villains can be complicated, but like,
The villains are complicated.
you know, Joel is not a villain from last
Wow, we're
time.
already getting into The Last of Us.
He's an anti-hero.
It has not been 5 minutes, Matan.
It hasn't even been
It
2.
hasn't even been 2 minutes.
Yikes.
You know, there are bad people, but they're not necessarily villains, and these are villains.
Joel is our hero, even if
He's our hero.
is not
If he's-
the hero.
Mhm.
Yeah. Black and white. We're trying to stick to black and white for ease of
Mostly.
simplicity. Things are way more
Mhm.
complicated than that. So
Yes. In
yell at
we're
us.
also gonna
Thank you.
in our typical best of format, we each have 4 that we've brought, and
Mhm.
we're all each gonna read one, give a little spiel about each one, and then once we finish, we're gonna start taking them off the list until we only have one left. So let's get started. Adriana, you are first up.
I am first up, and I am gonna give just a little warning for all of mine. I think most of you guys don't know a lot of them. I'm eclectic. I'm weird. So this is gonna be really hard to pitch because I want to win. But so my first villain is Arthas from World of Warcraft, also better known as the Lich King. So he is, like we were saying, a very complicated villain. And so I'm picking. So when you start, WoW is very long. The story in WoW is very long. There've been a million everythings. But so the thing with Arthas is that he's a fallen hero. So he started out as a paladin. He's the prince, the heir to a kingdom. Like, he is very passionate, very I will save my people. And in order to do that, so they're being attacked by the Lich King and the Scourge, which is just like an undead army. So he goes to look for this legendary weapon, Frostmourne, which is a cursed blade. Ooh, so he doesn't have a soul anymore. And so he does defeat, the enemy army, but he becomes the big bad. That's the price, because world has to be balanced, and there's always gonna be good and evil. But what was really trippy, what I think makes him a really great villain, is that for players of the game who we know all this now because it's been a while since Arthas was the Lich King. But like all of a sudden, when he got back home, he killed his father, and then later he kills his mentor, and these are both very important people in the game. And so for like a long time, I was like, what? Why the 180, bro? Like, what's up? And so like the reveal of all this shit happening to him is just like a really big moment. And he's the commander of the undead. Do you guys? Yeah.
So he goes and kills his father and his mentor, and you're like, you don't know at this point that his soul.
Mentor happened later. I mean, there
Okay.
are like hints, like his appearance, his external appearance changes.
Okay.
But like people, like the king is like, why are you doing this? And he's like, to claim what's mine, to succeed you, father, blah blah blah. But like, it's because he has no soul now, and he's just left with like passion and a desire to do things. Sorry, say that again?
That I'm very familiar with having no soul.
Oh,
Hey,
yikes.
self-roast.
Bad joke.
Nice.
Self-roast, hey.
Almost.
But I'm pitching him as one of the best villains. I mean, because one, he just is objectively, but also like it's pretty terrifying to have your number one paladin hero bro who just saved your country turn into the villain, turn into the bad guy.
I like having a paladin fall, because that's like, they're like paragons of moral virtue.
Yeah.
Like I like that.
I mean, I
and
enjoy a good from hero to villain story. It's always the opposite of the or villain to hero story, and it's great. I love it.
It's enticing. I mean, Arthas also, he wasn't the perfect paladin. Everyone is flawed. And like what was his strengths before becoming Lich King? Like his passion, his desire to like do what he believes is right. That just turns on its ass. It's still passion to do what he's right, but now he's evil and his framework is completely different. And I love it. Do you guys know Sylvanas Windrunner?
I'm familiar.
Pretty elf lady.
Yeah. I don't. I'm sorry.
Okay, it's okay. She's a really popular person to cosplay. You'll see her a lot at cons.
Yeah, I'm gonna Google this and see if
She's gorgeous. But so, I mean, a little tangent. She was the general ranger for an elven city. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, I've seen her before. She
died in combat, and so fucking Arthas raises her from the dead to join his army, and she's a very important person in WoW now. So it's not even that just like he's a good villain, like he is a smart as fuck villain. Because right now in the current expansion that's coming up, Sylvanas is the reason for all the chaos that's going on. So his effects are everlasting.
I love a villain with a good motivation. That's not just being evil to be evil. Like, that gets me.
Poor guy. Rest in pieces. And it felt bad. Like there are some moments where like you can see like he's trying to fight, but like he can't. It hurt. Anyways, that's my pitch.
Speaking of sad villains that make you really tug at that heartstring, Josh from Until Dawn. He is such a tragic villain that, because he never, I mean, spoilers for Until Dawn here.
Spoilers for everything, every game.
Spoilers for everything. We can't really talk about villains without getting into spoilers.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've played it, he is the psycho that is terrorizing everyone, but he really never actually physically hurts or kills anyone.
Not physically.
Yeah, he definitely does mental harm. Like, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But he never physically hurts anyone, and he thinks he's doing this all for, like, good reasons. Because he wants, if you don't know, if you're not familiar, his sisters both die at the beginning of the game. And they're just missing. You don't really know that they're dead. You don't know what's happened to them. And Josh is, like, messed up by this. It's like triggered some schizophrenia in him. You don't really know this until later in the game. But he's invited all his friends back to the cabin that the tragedy happened at a year later. And
fucking stupid.
It was a prank gone wrong that caused the two sisters to run off into the woods and end up like falling and dying. And so he blames like all the friends for this happening. And what he wants to do is like prank them back basically and create like, he's like filming all of it. There's hidden cameras everywhere, and he wants to like create like a viral video that's going to make them all become famous. And he wants to scare them, but his intentions are never to like actually hurt them. He's just trying to scare them and like put them through what his sisters went through. And then he also wants to like, he knows two of the friends are like in love, but they don't want to tell each other, like Ashley and Chris. They're too scared to tell each other, so he wants to like scare them into like falling in love with each other. And so he always is trying to like do the right thing in like a twisted, messed up way.
It's almost cute.
Yeah. And it's terrible because he has so many like mental health issues and he needs to get help. And there's one possible way for you, if you're playing as Sam and you escape when he's like chasing you, you can find this area where you learn a ton about Josh, and you learn that he was given the wrong medication, and you learn that like the psychiatrist that you as a player are talking to throughout the game, that like I think it's like Dr. Hill. Do you guys know?
I don't remember his name.
It's been a while since I played the game. But you learned that was his psychiatrist, and he was giving him the wrong medication. I think he thought he was depressed and not schizophrenic, so he was giving him depression medicine. Yeah. And so it wasn't helping him, and he wasn't getting the help he needed. And that's what
Good.
caused all of this to happen. And it's just such like a tragedy to look at this game and be like, he could have gotten the help he needed. He could have been saved, but he wasn't. And it was like the people in his life that failed him.
And
That
he is an
brought him-
antagonist. He is definitely a villain, though. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
he's
you're right.
definitely a
It's a
villain. He
tragic
definitely
villain.
Yeah, he definitely did terrible things. But then
Yeah, it's terrifying.
yeah, like he strapped his friends into like these terrible machines and like scared them into thinking they were gonna die or have to kill each other and like choose who's gonna live. Like not excusing that behavior.
Yeah,
It's such a tragedy of what brought him to that and all the people who
for sure.
fought him.
He was a good. It's a good pick.
Yeah, and
It's solid, yeah.
especially when you get into the endings, like there's no happy ending for Josh. He either dies or he turns into a Wendigo. And like every other character can have a happy ending other than like the sisters, of course,
True.
because they have to die.
Right.
True.
But like he
Can
either
we
dies or
can we talk about the Wendigo though?
See, I
It's not-
struggled
it's
with
not-
did I want to
it's not
pick
her
the Wendigo
pick.
or the Josh or
Yeah.
Josh.
I know it's not her pick.
Yeah,
The Wendigos in that game are great.
they are wonderful.
It's
and
fucking terrifying.
terrifying. That last scene where you have to like stay still and like make all the decisions.
That one's very cool. The Until Dawn's a great game.
Amazing.
Very terrifying.
I can talk about it forever.
We should. Right
and
now.
I think
That's what this podcast is.
That's actually what the podcast is. This is
We're an
the
Until Dawn
podcast.
podcast.
Josh was not an expected pick. I think it was a good one. My first pick is Dutch from Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2. I am going to avoid specific spoilers for Red Dead 2 because I know Caitlin is playing it right now or is about to. So Red Dead 2, for those who don't know, Red Dead 2 is a prequel to Red Dead 1. And in Red Dead 1, you go and find Dutch and other characters from this gang that you used to be in as John Marston, and you kill them. And so Red Dead 2 is kind of the origin story. It gives them all the depth. It sort of explains why the events of Red Dead 1 happened in a very emotional way. Dutch Vanderland is very much an idealist. He is the leader of your little gang. He really values like liberty and freedom for everyone. This is set in the like late 1800s, maybe early 1900s. And so, you know, he has a bunch of people of different, like he has like black people on the gang when there are still, you know, when I almost said racism was abolished. Wow. You guys, racism's illegal. It's over. You can't do it. It's illegal. So there's no racism. When slavery is like right after slavery was abolished, and he has a guy who is native on the group, a guy who is Mexican, a couple black people. Like, despite being a very old-fashioned, he like really does value everybody's freedom equally. He became a criminal in the first place because of his distaste for the law and because his goal was to make enough money to flee the U.S. and go live off the land in some, you know, undeveloped area. And eventually that dream sort of expands to include the whole gang of like, you know, 2 dozen people. He basically wanted all of them to get enough money to leave the U.S., go to Tahiti and buy a farm and just live there for the rest of their lives. And he really cares about everybody in the gang, but sort of as Red Dead 2 is sort of about the death of the American Wild West. It's sort of about the, you know, beginning, like, you know, Western civilization, like really developing and reaching all the way across the country. So as the Wild West is dying and rival gangs and the government are closing in on him, and at one point a head injury, this all kind of leads him away from his idealism and his kindness towards cruelty and like an ends justify the means kind of attitude. He begins killing a lot of innocent people for very small reasons. He puts a lot of people at risk to seek revenge. His circle of trust grows smaller and smaller and smaller, and he becomes increasingly suspicious of his closest friends. Instead of helping people, you know, fight for liberation as he was doing, like in particular, the anecdote I'll give is there's a Native American tribe who's being harassed by an oil company who wants their land. He encourages the conflict as a way of distracting the law so that he and his gang can escape notice.
Yeah.
He starts, you know, just not that he didn't do bad things as a criminal before, but he really starts throwing other people in the line of fire. And his sort of fall from grace over this, I think I put like 150 hours into Red Dead 2 and maybe 125. and watching him like fall from grace is torturous. It's like so sad to see him become this awful person, and seeing him shift from this like close friend into this and leader into this bitter villain is like really, really painful. I think he's a fantastic villain.
But in Red Dead 1, he's like already villain bad
yes.
guy.
In
Okay.
Red Dead 1, he is villain bad guy. And that's why, and you know that you guys used to be friends, but you don't see it. And so in Red Dead 2, seeing all of this, over this very long period of time is really, really powerful.
Yeah, I have started playing. I don't think I realized he was the villain. I think I know who you're talking about.
Well, yes. I would have liked to not say it, but Red Dead 1 came out like over a decade ago, so I feel like...
Fine. I mean, yes, I've had the game for like 3 weeks now. I should be further, and then
and he's not the only villain. The other villains, but...
Yeah, I figured.
But
I'm Googling him right now because I don't know the characters too well yet. Oh,
yeah.
It
takes some time.
He gave me very strong...
Yeah, so he doesn't die. Okay, yeah, no, I know. Sorry. I'm in my own world right now.
No, me too. We just keep doing it at the same time. He gave me very strong Robin Hood vibes at the beginning.
Yes. He does have like Robin Hood vibes, and he's a great leader and everything. But his fall from grace, he becomes quite a villain. Adriana, back to you.
Yeah, one thing that I want to point out that I think is really common to all of the villains that we're picking is the the way you put it, the ends justify the means kind of lookout. Because like we all know, like either you die a hero or you live long enough to become the villain or whatever.
Yep.
I think that's not to be overlooked. Just think about it. Anyways, the next villain I'm pitching, again with the indie picks, I love my indie games, is Flowey from Undertale.
Yes.
Caitlin, you have not played Undertale, right?
I have not.
So massive spoilers. I'm so sorry, my dear.
I didn't. I'm looking at your notes. I played Undertale. I didn't know some of this stuff.
Yeah, because there are 3 routes and like there's hidden shit and it's just a lot.
Yeah.
But so he's just this pixelated, creepy ass fucking flower, and it's the first NPC you meet in the game.
Yeah.
And even from the first line of dialogue, something's fucking wrong with this flower because its voice is sicky. It's sick. Like it's trying too hard to be sweet, to be nice. And that's very much the character himself. Like he'll say like cutesy little words. He's a little shithole.
Yep.
I hate this flower. This flower is traumatic. But so the kind of the backstory to the flower and why he's a villain is that he is a reincarnated person, basically, kind of. So the Flowey used to be Azrael, which was a child of 2 like parent figures in the game that like you get to meet and you get to know. They're really cool characters. So they had a son named Azrael. And this person, so the plot of Undertale is like you're a human and you fall into like the underground, which has a bunch of like monsters, and people don't like monsters because monsters are bad, but like you go in there and monsters are great. Monsters are awesome. They take care of you, except this one fucking flower. Because before you came down, another human came down and they adopted this human like they adopted you. And so the child Azrael got really close with like his stepbrother, I guess is what you could, or I don't think they name a gender, step sibling. And then the first human dies, and their dying wish was to go back to the surface and see the flowers by their village. And so Azrael, he's just a little sweetie. He's amazing. He does it. So he somehow takes the kid's soul. So like he now has 2 souls in one body, and it's really trippy. And they go up and they see it, but all the humans are like, oh my God, a monster, because it's Azrael, right? So Azrael gets mortally wounded. So both kids die real quick. Everyone's traumatized. It's very sad. And so he dies. And they make, this is where you first fall down into, is like this flower patch. So there's a flower patch, and years later, there's a scientist in the game who like experiments with flowers. She doesn't even realize, but it happens, that one of the flowers gains sentience. And it's like the embodiment of Asriel / the first human, but without a soul. And so this flower like tries really hard to like go visit its parents and try to feel love again, but it doesn't get any joy. It's very much like the self-harm attitude of I just want to feel something. And the closest thing that it can feel is violence and anger. So it's a murderer. It's just it just murders everything. And there are 3 routes: pacifist, I don't know what they call the murder one, and then the neutral one. Genocide, yes. So like depending how you interact with the flower, things wildly change. And in the genocide route, I do love this. He's afraid of you. Like he will beg for his life, which I think is really like the game encourages you to play with morality like that. But that's a whole other thing. And fun fact, the character's name, not Flowey, but Asriel Dreamer is his last name. It's an anagram for serial murderer.
Wow.
Flowey's, just the design of Flowey is
creepy,
horrifying, and the intro is really great. His intro, yeah, it's very, very creepy. His final form is really scary. He's just,
and they're hard boss battles too.
Yeah, really hard. Undertale's a great game. Flowey is really fucked up.
That sounds
he's the embodiment of 2 dead children.
Yep. And he's a play on like your expectations for the game, where like you're introduced to him, you show up, it looks like this Undertale looks like this cute little game, and Flowey looks very cute and adorable, and then he's like, hey, touch this little dot and it'll help you, and you touch it and it deals damage.
They're friendship pellets.
Friendship pellets, right.
Yeah.
And then it deals damage to you.
If you avoid them, he gets pissed and he's just let me fucking shoot you or something like that.
And he gets this creepy look on his face, his voice is scary. It's very, very good choice, Adriana.
Yeah.
Dang.
Caitlin?
Yeah, okay. My next one is Mr. X from Resident Evil 2.
Mm-hmm.
This guy is absolutely terrifying. He is this like huge like creature that just chases you around for like the entire second half of the game. And like you can't kill him. You can't like do anything. You literally just have to run from him.
I think you can stun him is the most you can do.
Yeah, I think so. I haven't played.
You cannot kill him. He was always coming.
He will find you and kill you. But you have to find like there's certain rooms he can't go into. And the game doesn't tell you any of this. So the first time I encountered him, I spent like 2 hours trying to kill him. I thought you were supposed to kill him. I thought you had to just like do a shit ton of damage. I was running around everywhere. I didn't know there were rooms you couldn't go into, so I was very confused. I finally looked it up and I found out like there's rooms you can't go into. You can't kill him. You literally just have to run from him. You have to do all your tasks like quickly.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. It's just this like time looming over you like the entire second half of the game of like he's chasing you and he will find you. And like you have to do things quickly. And it's terrifying.
It's this like omnipresent pressure. Like even if you don't see him, even if he's not right there, you know he's coming.
And you'll start to hear the footsteps and like his grunting.
And he always walks.
Louder.
I do love audio cues. I love audio cues in any horror game. That will make or break.
Also, I was looking up stuff about him earlier. Apparently, if you shoot his hat off, he will charge you.
Oh, cool. Cute.
I don't know if I knew that, but that's really funny.
That's fun. He was done very well in Resident Evil 2 Remake.
Yeah. And like his design is just so creepy because he's like almost human, but not.
Yeah.
Like, it's just uncanny enough that it's like
freaky.
terrifying.
Freaky.
Do we know how he got his name? Because I love that he has like a proper title, Mr. X.
Yeah, I believe it was actually a toy company that, and I might be wrong. I was just looking, I should have wrote this down because I saw it earlier today. But I think it was a toy company that like dubbed him Mr. X.
His official name is Tyrant.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But I think Mr. X, it was like promotional material or something like that.
Like
and it kind of stuck.
Had created it, or maybe like some company had like created like a figure of him, and they were like, "We need a."
That's cool.
And they like came up with Mr. X.
That's a cool little story.
Yeah, that sounds the combat of it, like realizing that like you can't defeat this thing, sounds a lot like the big monster in The Last of Us 2. I don't know what it's called.
Rat King.
The Rat King, yeah.
Yeah.
It very much has that vibe. I think I said that in our Last of Us 2 episode that like
Yeah.
that thing reminded me of Mr. X.
Yeah. It's
totally
also
does.
interesting, Caitlin. Both of your picks, I think, are really good mental health awareness things. No, but because if like you think about it, like he's always following you, he's omniscient.
true.
It's like it's anxiety inducing. It's
My
wonder if
last
that's
two are
intentional.
also very connected. I don't know if you guys noticed how connected those two are.
I
We'll
like
get
those.
there.
Yeah.
hot mental health takes, not hot takes, just takes.
My next pick is a fan favorite, one of the most famous, recognizable, and well-loved villains in gaming, and that is GLaDOS from Portal and Portal 2. I should open with, this is sacrilegious, I have not played Portal 2, which is, I know, a mortal sin. So I think I'm going to stream it once my PC's all set up. I think I'm going to stream Portal 2 for the first time.
Good.
Stay tuned
Prevent yourself from going to hell.
I better not die between now and a week or two when that's set up. She is very unique in visual and just larger character design. She like hangs from the ceiling and she's full of cords and wires, but she's almost got this humanoid element. She's got like a very clear head and a chest. Very imposing. She's huge. Her sarcastic tone, despite her robot voice, is hilarious and often very scary. The slow reveal of the fact that she killed everybody at this facility and maybe wider, you don't know how wide her destruction is, and that Shell, your playable character, is the last living person there, is done really well and is largely credit to GLaDOS's character. The final boss fight with her at the end is very good. It's a little easy, but it's a very good fight that uses the elements that you learned throughout the game. Your relationship with her that develops throughout the game, her frustration at you and, trying to guide you. She's like programmed to run these tests, but also like kills the people who made her do it. It's very complicated. She's like trying to kill you, but doesn't want to do it outright. She's very interesting, so recognizable, and just like easily one of my favorite villains in the game.
Tell us more about her backstory.
I played Portal 1 and I read Ratman, which is a comic spinoff. It takes place between Portal 1 and Portal 2. I don't even know a lot about her backstory. She was created to run these tests, for the portal gun, and I think other devices that Aperture makes. So basically the idea that Shell is a test subject who's going to take the portal gun and use it in all these like physical tests. But GLaDOS has made them deadly, and for a lot of them, and also the facilities decay sort of as you go through this game. So level 1, you don't know anything is remiss. It's all very white and pristine, and then as you go further and further, they're kind of falling apart and they're stained, and there's one part where you get into an area of the facility you're really not supposed to be able to access. And you learn that there was some other person here. It was the Ratman who's left all these messages for you, who was like driven insane by GLaDOS. And she's just like fantastic villain, unequivocally a villain. She doesn't have a tragic backstory. She's not morally gray. She's evil, and that's just who she is.
I mean, she kind of has a tragic backstory, like
Why?
AI gone wrong, because she was made to do like killing weapons.
I guess
don't make an AI for weapons, okay?
She was had to train these people in this
how to
facility. Not to
Or how
kill.
to use.
Portal gun has uses as a weapon, but it's not.
Oh, it's a portal. I
intrinsically a
know,
weapon.
but just don't give AI weapons.
Fine, but yes, she's a little tragic, but she's just a fantastic character through and through.
And at the
Adriana,
beginning of the games, you're led to believe that she is trying to help you, right?
Right.
Mhm.
She's just there to teach you, is what you think.
Yeah. And I thought that was really cool because I played Portal 2. And I thought that was super cool. It's like it was unwinding. You were learning that like she's not here to help you.
Right.
You thought
the slow reveal of is very
done
good.
Really well.
Yeah.
All right, Adriana, back to you.
Yes, and so we have another very iconic villain, Handsome Jack from Borderlands. And so, I mean, honestly, in my opinion, he's just the main antagonist for the entire series. I mean, he's even in Tales from the Borderlands, it's his AI copy that's the villain. Like, Handsome Jack is just fucking everywhere in this game. You know, even though the main showdown with him is in Borderlands 2, like, he's still manipulating things in the pre-sequel and in the first game. So, you know, he's there. And I think it's a really interesting choice for Borderlands, because most games have a villain that you defeat at the end of the game, or mini bosses, but this is a series villain, and I think that really speaks to his like intelligence, which is something we love to see in villains. So that's what I love about GLaDOS too. I love a sarcastic villain, which also happens with Handsome Jack. He is an a-hole, but like a funny a-hole. And he's really charismatic. Like, you kind of like him at first, like, oh, okay, well, but he's fucked up. And so I think, I don't know. I mean, one of the most fucked up things I think about Handsome Jack, like, he does, like, he's evil. Like, there's no way around that, really. But for me, it's the using his daughter to hack into communication system and make her a slave. For me, that's what it is. So his daughter, for you guys who haven't played, is named Angel, and she's one of 6 sirens, which are basically like women that have superpowers, basically. Like, they're dope, they're OP. So he uses his daughter, probably against her will, definitely against her will, as like a computer, basically, to eventually take control of Hyperion, become the big bad evil. And so, like, his internal motivation is that he's gone through a lot of trauma. He was abused as a child. His wife left, ? All of his lovers have like backstabbed, betrayed him. And so, like, he thinks he's doing, you know, good things. He loves, or he says he loves his daughter, and they're like working together to save the world. Because he, like, I mean, Pandora is a messed up place, and so he's trying to bring order to it, like any dictator. But, you know, obviously there's a really big human cost to doing that. And you see that a lot in the game. What I really love about him, like, as an evil person in particular, is just how omniscient he is. Like, he is everywhere. Like, even when you're in Sanctuary or Banditville, you can hear his voice via like echo logs that are just trying to convince everyone to just turn you over. Like, just give. And it's very persuasive. Again, his intelligence. Like, if you give me this guy, you'll be fine. And it does speak to like the really tricky part about villainy, right? Like, every villain thinks they're the hero. And I really like the ending of like when you finally get him, because he's like, his actual voice line is, "I wasn't supposed to die. You're a savage. You're a maniac. You are a bandit, and I'm the goddamn hero." And the really compelling part of that is like, he's not entirely wrong. You know, like, you are self-centered, you steal stuff, you loot bodies, you use lawlessness to your benefit. And it's a really thin line between being a bad guy and being a good guy.
Sure.
And like, if I were just like a random NPC on Pandora, like, I would rather live in Opportunity under Jack's control, which is relatively safe,
Opportunity
than
is a city.
anywhere else on Pandora. Yeah. So, I mean, one of my favorite quotes from a poli-sci professor at UCI was that living in a totalitarian regime is mostly boring and tolerable, as long as you're not one of the ones getting slaughtered.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's how fascism happens, and I think Handsome Jack is a really good fascist.
I was just gonna say, it reminds me of Legend of Korra, like Kuvira's rule. Very much like, it seems good. It's good if you're not one of the people they don't like.
Right. Totally.
If you stand to benefit, this guy is the hero.
Yeah. Like, it's the hero in some people's story.
He's a good villain. He's so evil though. Like, that part with his daughter, like, I think anyone.
Pretty fucked up.
Yeah. All right, my next one. I don't know if either of you are familiar with this, but Stefano Valentini from Evil Within 2.
Don't, but I love his name.
Right? I love his character design and just him in general. He's like this like posh, like English. I think he has an English accent. Just like photographer guy who, so he was like a photographer for like war times, and he was obsessed with like capturing people in their moment of like dying. And so he became obsessed with this when he was like over in like a war, and he took a picture right as someone blew up, and like he captured the moment they like blew up, and it also like blew up his eye, so he's like missing an eye. And I think, again, it's been a while since I played this game.
That's fucking scary, man.
Right?
That's good.
And so when he's inside of Morbius, because like the whole game takes place within like this kind of like, I don't know how to explain. Are you either of you familiar with Evil Within series? Yeah. Okay. So Matan, if you can help me explain, it's like what like Morbius is. It's like a world that you go into that's almost like a computer world.
It's kind of a dreamscape computer world.
Like think Sword Art Online, like you go something and then you have to like do things within there. Yeah. And so like the first game is like they don't even realize they're in this like dreamscape world, and then they get out. Second game, Sebastian, the main character, goes back in because he learns that his daughter is trapped in there, and he has to go save his daughter, who he thought his daughter and wife had been dead for years. And he learns that at least the daughter is alive, and he has to go save her from in there. Ooh, my earring just fell out.
Yikes.
I went to scratch my ear and it just came right out. Okay. So he goes back in, and this guy, I think in Morbius, he has both his eyes. His face is fine because...
Why would you not?
Yeah. But he's become obsessed with like capturing these moments of death. So he's like killing people. And before he even got in Morbius, he was like a serial killer. He would kill people and like position their bodies to make them into like art and like take pictures of the art.
I love that.
Yeah, it's super creepy. And then so he goes into Morbius. He's not even the main villain of the game. And like that's the thing, he sticks out as like the main villain of the game to me. The other guy who's the main villain, I can't even think of his name right now.
Doesn't matter. Not important.
Yeah, he's not as cool as this guy. So this guy can like, he can summon like these different things that attack Sebastian. So there is, the two main ones are like the aperture, which is just like a huge eye in the sky that has like these tentacles that'll like hit at Sebastian, and like it's like during the main boss fight like with Stefano that the tentacles like come down and hit you and like cause damage. And then one of the other boss fights that he can conjure up is Obscura. This thing is like terrifying. It's this like creepy ballet looking like dancing old-timey camera, and it's made from at least 2 bodies of victims of like Stefano's victims, and it's got like 3 legs with like ballet shoes, and it's like a woman's body with like 3 legs, and then the head is like one of those old-timey cameras.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, it's terrifying, and like the flash will stun you. So it will either stun you or it'll stun this thing that you're like trying to get done. You have to like get it done. It has 90 seconds to go off, and there's no killing this thing. You have to do like the whole 90 plus seconds because it has 90 seconds to go off, but this creature keeps freezing it. So you have to distract the creature so it can go off for the 90 seconds. But every time it freezes it, it adds time, obviously.
Right.
And this room is like terrifying because it's super dark. There's like corners everywhere that this thing hides in. It hides in like the darkness, and it like jumps out and scares you. And it's terrifying.
I really like the naming. These are some good film references, good camera references.
Yeah.
It's a very good villain. I think often overlooked. I think Evil Within series is often overlooked.
I agree. No, and he's such a cool villain. His design is so cool. He's very much just like the photographer guy. Like when you look at his design, he's got like the scarf, the hat.
And there's no like tragic backstory. It's just he likes making dead people art.
I mean, he got his eye blown up, but
I guess
as that happened, he realized he loves taking pictures of people dying. So
I mean, a lot of people, you know, are amputees or blind or whatever, and don't, you know, real killers.
Fair point.
So
but yeah, and then he's also like trying to kidnap the daughter within like Morbius. She has like some power or something, and I forget the exact thing.
I think because she's been in there for a really long time or something. to do with that.
If you die in Morbius, do you die in like real life or?
You die in the dream. You die for real.
Yeah.
Okay, great pick.
Great.
My next one is one of my absolute favorites. I don't know if a lot of people share this, but it is Joker from Telltale's Batman series, both seasons 1 and 2.
I mean, I'm a sucker for any Joker.
Totally, me too. And so when I say that he is one of my favorites, that means a lot. I've read a lot of comics. I've seen a lot of movies and shows. He is one of my favorite Jokers of all time. Heath Ledger is number 1. Don't at me, but he's up there. I really love, I mean, I could talk about this game forever. I really love Telltale's spin on the Batman mythos. It's one of my favorite parts about comics and comic book heroes is that you constantly get new interpretations of them, their stories, their origins, their personalities, their look. And I really like what Telltale did in particular with the Joker. So in the first game, I think in episode 3 or something, Bruce Wayne, who you play as, meets him in Arkham Asylum. But he's not called the Joker, and the Joker's never actually existed in this world. He's just this mysterious patient John Doe. Nobody knows where he came from. He just kind of has been at Arkham for a long time. It's kind of creepy, but not a real threat. But he really like gloms onto Bruce and kind of develops this like attachment to Bruce. He's really nice, and I mean he's kind of creepy, but he's a nice guy. He helps Bruce get out of Arkham. And then when he gets out of Arkham, he kind of like comes to Bruce for guidance. He eventually develops this love of Batman as well, not knowing that they're the same person. Later on, I think in the second game. He usually how the Harley Quinn Joker relationship works is that Joker was Joker, Harley Quinn was his psychiatrist, fell in love with him, became Harley Quinn. But in this game, it's the opposite, almost. Harley Quinn is the villain in season 2. She's been around, and Joker falls in love with her and kind of creates his persona off of her instead, which is interesting. And throughout the game, particularly in season 2, you the player are trying to guide this extremely unstable and violent, but ultimately kind person in his decision making to try to make him a moral person. He's kind of at a crux in his life where he's like, I want to be better. And you're trying to help him do that. His struggle to try to act morally despite his worst impulses, because he's a really fucked up person, is really compelling to watch. There's a really good use of dramatic irony, because like you, the player, know the Joker. Who doesn't know the Joker and all the fucked up shit he does? Yeah. But Bruce Wayne doesn't. He doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. And I won't spoil the ending of the second season, but they go in a really cool direction in the last couple episodes with his character. So I think he is a villain, and I think he fits on this list. He is the Joker after all, but just barely. He really is almost kind of an anti-hero, which I've never seen with the Joker before. They made me like care about this like really, really fucked up guy, and that is a really compelling testament to his depth.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it with the Joker movie too.
Yes, that's true.
Although, I mean, I know this was first.
Yeah,
that's true.
Did it first. Movie stole it.
And the Joker,
I mean, they were different too. There were 2 different stories.
I haven't played or seen either, so.
The Joker movie, I actually haven't seen all of it either. I know. It's kind of.
And it's Halloween. It's spooky season,
and
you haven't seen the Joker. Oh my god!
But they made him, from what I could tell, much more of like a. Kind of like a renegade, this kind of outcast folk hero. He kind of starts this whole movement. Yeah. And this is very like personal. Like that Joker, it seems to me, is just has a lot of mental health issues. Like didn't want to hurt anybody until they hurt him. And it seems like this guy really does like hurting people. He doesn't want to like it, but like he does. Yeah. And it's very his journey is very personal. Whereas, and this is not a slight against it, of course, but whereas the Joker movie, it seems to be about him, but also about broader sort of injustices in our world, in our society, because we live in a society. Who's next? Adriana, back to you.
You said that today?
I've said we live in a society probably a dozen times today.
Maybe. Yeah. I am next, and
this is your last one.
It's my last one. It's also our second Telltale game, 2 in a row, 2 for 1. Because here we have our favorites, The Last of Us and Telltale. So there's really no getting around it. But my last pick, I think, is a strong pick. Although Caitlin, I know you haven't played the game, but it is the Crooked Man from The Wolf Among Us, and he is great game, fantastic game. He is the one concession I'll make. His design isn't like the scariest.
His visual design,
yeah, his visual design isn't the scariest, but I mean, he does have under one of his eyes, like from his under eyelid to like maybe 2 inches down, it's just like ripped of skin, I think, and it's like all red and it looks nasty. And his eyes, it's funky. But you look at the other half of his face, it's fine.
Normal.
I don't know why I picked heroes with weird faces. Him and Handsome Jack. I'm villains, anti-heroes, villains. I don't know how to word it anymore. But anyways, he's basically just a white man gang leader. He sucks. One of the best things about The Wolf Among Us is how they take fairy tale characters and they throw them into an approximation of the real world. And so you have he runs a strip club. He is a pawn shop owner. He's a loan shark. So like these are this isn't like a creepy monster chasing you down in a locked room. It's like more real world evil. I mean, but obviously like there's magic going on in the game. These are fairy tale characters. But one thing of lore that I really like about him, he has his own like rhyme that kind of describes his origin story. So I'm gonna read it. There was once a crooked man, and he walked a crooked mile. He found a crooked sixpence upon a crooked stile. He bought a crooked cat, which caught a crooked mouse, and they all lived together in a little crooked house. It's cute. But so like the idea was like he started in poverty and he built himself up, obviously by exploiting other people. And so when you're playing in the game, ultimately he's the big bad. But it takes you a while to like investigate and kind of like figure that out. You go through some mini bosses and stuff. But the showdown's really cool. You have the option to kill him or like throw him in prison or throw him down a well, which is very fairy tale. I love it. He's just a fucked up guy that's out for number one. And you're playing as the big bad wolf. And so he does a good job of kind of making you doubt yourself because this is a fantasy, folklore, that the big bad wolf is supposed to be a bad guy. So you were a bad guy and now you're reformed. And so that's really complicated. So you're an ex-bad guy going up against a bad guy. One of the cool quotes from him is, do you really want the truth or do you just want to look like a hero?
And that's kind of the crux of the game.
Yeah, I mean, right? Like, do you kill him? Do you send him to jail? Because that's what, like cops of the law do. And the Crooked Man, he's out for number one. He doesn't care about right and wrong, really. He does what needs to get done. The game starts with the death of one of his strippers, and like it's a whole complicated thing. But this is like most definitely not a good guy at all. Like he's not Handsome Jack. He doesn't think he's doing the right thing. He's bad. He knows it.
He's just out for himself, totally.
Yeah, he wants to control like the city. He just wants everything. He's greedy. He's great.
Good call.
All right, getting back to some photography serial killers. We've got Mark Jefferson from Life is Strange.
I have to say, so incredibly similar to your last character.
Right?
I did not,
That's what I was saying. I did not realize how close those two were until I started writing this down. I was like, wow, they are both serial killers who take pictures of their victims. And
you really went for a theme.
I did.
So, like, the first two match, the last two match, and they're all, like, mental health related.
Totally.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mark Jefferson is such a great character because it's such, like, a twist when you find out that he is a serial killer. Because all throughout the game, he seems like this great teacher that, like, Max is, like, she loves, she looks up to, like, he, like, the reason she came to Arcadia Bay or like came back to Arcadia Bay because he's such a great photographer and she wants to learn from him. And then that moment when you're uncovering Rachel's body because you found the picture of Nathan over the body and you're so convinced it's Nathan.
Yes, you really are.
And then you've seen a picture of Nathan over the body like but you don't think about who took the picture. And then you're uncovering the body, and someone comes up behind you and like gets you with a needle, or like, you know, and you just turn around and you see Chloe get shot by Jefferson. I can't think of words right now.
It was stunning. It was
such a moment that you're like, oh my god, like you think it's gonna be Nathan, and it's such a moment of pulling the rug out from underneath you that you're like, what? And you just go back and everything starts to make sense. And like the brilliance of the first scene when you're in the lecture with him and he has that line that says, I could frame any of you in a dark corner and capture you in a moment of desperation. It seemed like just such, when you're first playing the game, you first see that scene. It's such just an innocent moment of like, he's just saying like, I could take a picture of you, like.
Convey emotion, art.
Yeah, it's emotion. But then it reveals so much. And that scene is just so important. Like, you see it so many times throughout the game because it's like, that's the scene Max learns she has her powers. That's the scene where like Jefferson like admits that he's the killer, but you don't realize it until so much later in the game. I just love this game so much.
Yeah.
It's a great game.
Yeah,
it's a fantastic game.
Jefferson is such like a terrible guy. Like, you see him, like, you know for sure he kills Rachel. Like, that one happens no matter what.
Yeah.
You can't stop that one.
That's the setup for the game.
Yeah, it's what happens. It's the game. And like, he's killed plenty of women before Rachel, obviously. And then throughout the game, you also see he kills Chloe, obviously, but you can stop that one. He kills David, you can stop that one. And he kills Nathan, and again, you can stop that one. But still, the fact that like so many characters that you just like watch him kill, and he's just such a great villain. And like his motivation is literally just wanting to create art, and that's so great.
He wants to like Stefano. He wants to capture people as they die in their desperate moment. When they're broken down.
Motivation, which is crazy. And like it's like a real motivation, like not real, but like, you know, for a photographer to like want to capture like certain moments, like it's so believable.
That, like, it is very believable.
Yeah.
Like you could tell me about like a real life serial killer who does what Mark Jefferson does, and I'd believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. He's great. All right, and then the last one, my final pick is Skull Kid from Majora's Mask, Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Skull Kid he doesn't speak. Or maybe he does like a little bit, but his voice is really creepy, and he like twists his head in these like twitchy ways that is horrifying. The mask itself, Majora's Mask, is very creepy. It's got all these spikes and these big eyes. He's immensely powerful. At the beginning of the game, he transforms Link into a Deku, a literal another species, and he calls down the moon to crush the land of Termina. But once again, like, Skull Kid himself is a victim. Before the game, it's his, well, he is a totally lonely guy, has no friends. Like, I don't think he has a family or a community. And his desire for acceptance is what leads him to become friends with these two fairies. I think Tattle and Tile. I don't know how to pronounce it. I've only seen it written. Who then encourage him. They're mischief makers. They encourage him to steal Majora's Mask from the Mask Salesman. And then the mask... fairies. Right, true. And the mask possesses him and makes him, like, the worst, most evil version of himself.
Cursed items at Arthas. Cursed items at Arthas.
Yeah, cursed items, exactly. The through line. He's a constant antagonist. He's always like destroying things and causing chaos just for the hell of it, just for joy to watch it happen. But what makes him like such a good villain to me is, you know, it's not that he was exactly this like upstanding moral citizen before the mask took him over, but his actions throughout the game are not really his fault and are coming from a place of hurt. He's this like crazy powerful deity but he's also just a lonely kid. Yeah. So he's definitely a villain. He is cruel and destructive, but he's also, you know, he's a victim too. Yeah. He's just a kid. He's a very, you know, again, one of the things to me that makes Majora's Mask one of the best Zelda games.
Oh yeah.
I really appreciate how we started and ended with parallel-ish stories.
True.
You know, of like in Arthas's case, you have a hero who has to suffer with this cursed item because he wanted to do good. And on the other side, you have just a normal guy who did his best and ended up getting fucked up.
Totally. It's great. It's
You're gonna have to start eliminating some of these.
I don't know how. I can't. Top 12? Let's just all of
them. Top 12. So okay. So yeah, that's it. That's the end.
The end, yeah. Can I make a suggestion of who to cut?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm gonna say Mr. X. Not because he's he's terrifying.
Yeah.
I think we should keep him longer. Okay, that's all right. You voted me out. I was going to say we should keep Mr. X longer just because I was going to say we should cut Stefano Valentini or Mark Jefferson because they're so similar. Same. I was going to say we can cut one of them.
Right.
First.
I think those are both good ideas, but I just, to defend the Mr. X one, is because he's, we love like a physically intimidating, like, everyone likes a chase scene.
He's unique.
He is definitely unique, but he's not as smart. And there's something about psychological torture.
Yes.
You're right. Mr. X probably was not going to win.
The main villain. He's created by the main villains. He's kind of like the aperture obscura of Stefano's.
Okay.
Which is still terrifying.
I love Mr. X, but I think you're right. We'll cut him.
Yeah.
Can we love Crooked Man? Can we cut Crooked Man?
Yeah, he's a little vanilla.
He's a little vanilla.
I have a soft spot for him, but he is like
for sure
normal villain.
And I one thing that I did like about him is that he was, you don't know his name for most of the game. He is behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And I do like that. A lot of these other characters that we have here are in your face villains. You know who this person is. And I like that about Crooked Man. But
except Josh. Well, But
Josh is, even though you don't know it's Josh, he's like chasing you. He looks like right.
Or Jefferson. That was left field for sure.
That's true. Yeah. You know him, and it's a twist. But okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then I guess we should cut one of mine next.
I want to cut Joker.
No, dude. What?
Because he's not as it's best villains, right? And he's evil, but he's not as evil as the other picks.
Yeah, I agree there.
He's not as evil, but he's compelling, and he is cruel, but he's conflicted.
He's a great character, but that's not the question. The question is best villain.
I guess he's not the best villain. This Joker isn't. Other Jokers.
I'm not saying.
Joker, all right.
Right. I'm not saying the Joker.
You picked the wrong Joker.
All right. Fine,
yeah, like Caitlin said.
Fine.
Fine.
The next, can we do Mark Jefferson or Stefano Valentini?
Yeah, I'm trying to debate.
Valentini is scary, man. But I think the three of us know Jefferson better, and so that's why it's my leaning. But
I think it's because we're more familiar with him.
Mm-hmm.
But also, because I also do want to go with Jefferson, but I also do think Valentini has some more terrifying aspects.
For sure.
However, I will say he was being controlled by someone else. He was getting orders from that other main villain in the game.
Yeah.
So I do think that's a point to Jefferson, because Jefferson is he's the one doing the controlling.
Sure. But Valentini really is there's some body.
I have a personal preference.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a personal preference for more psychological villain stuff. So my leaning would be Jefferson, anyways.
There's that. I think what pushes me with Jefferson as well, it's been a long time since I watched a playthrough of Evil Within 2, but the scene, and I think in the episode The Dark Room, I think it's episode 4, maybe it's 5, when you are in the room, you're Max taped to the chair, and Jefferson is taking pictures of you and shit. That one really is fucked up.
Creepy.
So I think we should go with Jefferson, but Valentini was a very good choice.
Because also the moments when you're just face to face with him, and it's more real. I don't know, Valentini is terrifying, but it's not.
Absolutely.
It's not as real. I don't know, Jefferson.
It's a removed terrifying.
And that has worth, but I think Jefferson pulls it here.
Yeah, I think so. I agree.
He's a strong candidate.
He is.
So we're going mostly just cutting one of each, but then pretty soon we're gonna have to
Yeah, we are.
change that up. Of your three, Adriana, that is Arthas, Flowey, and Handsome Jack. I also, again, it might just be familiarity. I kind of want to cut Arthas. I mean, I like the
It's
fallen
familiarity.
It's familiarity for me too.
hero. Well,
Yeah, it's the familiarity. It's because you guys don't know WoW.
I mean,
I don't know
yeah.
Undertale either though, but because I don't know,
Right.
Flowey seems really cool. I do know Handsome Jack though. That's why I'm leaning towards keeping.
Handsome Jack is iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Handsome Jack for sure stays.
Yes.
So then it would be
I
Arthas or
agree.
Flowey. Flowey has a lot of depth that you read through, but a lot of that is not evident for most of the game. Is that a plus or a minus? For most of the game, he's just this scary murderer.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's a plus because for the type of game that you're playing, you do really have to play it thoroughly and a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, you know, part of the reward of replaying a game is new content, right? That's like why we rag on games that you just play once for like 20 hours and it's over. Unless, you know, it's like spectacular, like The Last of Us. But, you know, that is part of the draw for Flowey, is that he's a compelling villain because you want to know more. Like, what the fuck happened to this flower that he wants to goddamn kill me? And everyone.
Adriana, who would you cut of your three right now?
I would cut Flowey, because I think, you know, if you asked any gamer who's played WoW, Arthas is...
Then I'm comfortable cutting Flowey.
Me too.
I'm comfortable with that. I think Arthas has more depth. Flowey is very interesting, but after his traumatic moment, he's really just a killer. And I think Arthas still is more complex. All right. Then back to me. So I've still got Dutch, GLaDOS, and Skull Kid. We're not cutting GLaDOS, right? We're not doing that, right? She's not getting cut this
hard.
round.
I think, and again, this might be familiarity, but I want to cut Dutch.
My preference would be Skull Kid.
Okay.
Oh. I actually kind of want to cut GLaDOS.
Whoa.
We're all split.
Whoa. Why GLaDOS?
She's a little boring. I mean, she's terrifying, right? But she doesn't.
But her motivation doesn't change.
You know what?
Have the depth of it.
I'll hop onto the.
No, she's so iconic, and her tone, her lines.
Cool, but
she is a villain through and through.
Yeah,
she's so good.
Is,
I think Skull Kid is really interesting and complex. But maybe you could chalk up a lot of it to the mask more than even Skull Kid.
But the mask is part.
And you're right. But it also feels less personal. Like Link is a hero. Like he turns Link into a Deku. That's true. But like Skull Kid is just fucking shit up because he wants to. Doesn't have anything to do with Link.
You know what? You've convinced me. Matalon, all yours suck. Let's get rid of them all.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, we have to do both. And we have to cut two eventually anyways.
So right now, my vote is for Skull Kid. What about you two?
GLaDOS.
Okay. All right. I can't, you guys took the majority. I can't fight it. Haha.
She's
a great villain.
Dutch, though. I take back my vote. I don't say Dutch anymore.
Okay. Dutch, yeah. I will defend Dutch when the time comes.
Yeah.
Die on that.
I mean, GLaDOS is good. Like she's a good fucking villain. She is. Yeah. She does her job.
She does.
True.
She does her job. That's it.
So now, what we have left, just to recap, we have Arthas from World of Warcraft, Handsome Jack from Borderlands series, Josh from Until Dawn, Mark Jefferson from Life is Strange, Dutch from Red Dead Redemption, and Skull Kid from Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask. So now I think we should stop cycling through and just pick the weakest links here. For me...
Skull Kid, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Skull Kid or Josh, I think.
I think Skull Kid first.
Okay, all right. Yeah. That's fine. Skull Kid's a great villain. That's okay.
He is, but we have to pick the best.
You're right.
Yeah.
I think then Josh. To me, Josh is compelling. He is interesting. Rami Malek delivers a fantastic performance.
Fantastic.
That being said, he pales in comparison to the scale of the Wendigos. Like you said,
I was gonna say, yeah, like what's most scary to when I was feeling the game were the Wendigos.
Yeah,
I think,
and he's not the main villain.
And halfway through the game, you learn that he's just very mentally ill and doing this for the wrong reasons, and he doesn't even really physically hurt anybody. You're right. I think Josh.
Great character, though.
Great character.
Amazing character, amazing game. But yes, I agree.
Yeah.
So then we've got Arthas, Handsome Jack, Mark Jefferson, and Dutch. So now I'm coming for Arthas.
I'm coming for Arthas too.
I mean,
Arthas is complex, but
I think
sorry.
I think that he's gonna have to get cut just because WoW is not.
Sorry.
Do you see him? You don't see him turn on screen, right? It happens later.
I think you do.
You do?
I mean, this is older WoW. Like, this is not recent WoW history. So there's no like full like Shadowlands Afterlife's trailer for it.
I have a lot of respect for MMO storytelling. I think it's very unique and does not get the recognition it deserves.
And WoW is so much story.
Yeah. And on top of that, like the way
Wow.
Boo. I love when I know WoW did this. They did this thing where like there was a part of the game, there's a place in the game that like gets nuked, not literally nuked, but then you just can't go back. And I think that's bold, and I love that.
I mean, right, but as like a new player, you want a version where you can play from beginning.
For sure, but I love time shit. I love like, oh, it's gone. Sorry. Like I think that's cool. It does alienate new players a little bit, but I think it's a bold choice. You're like, I am purposefully like I am okay alienating some people for my story.
It is a world that exists outside of the player.
Totally.
Very much.
So now,
which is really unique.
Right. So now we've got one each. Handsome Jack from Borderlands, Mark Jefferson from Life is Strange, and Dutch from Red Dead Redemption. I know you're going to come for Dutch, but just let me say, he's really interesting. He has just his fall from grace. Like, you watch it in real time, and there's nothing, like, often people have turns. Often people have, this is the one moment when I'm like, no, my wife died, now I'm evil. And Dutch doesn't like that. Dutch is this gradual decay of ideals. It is a twisted version of the person he was. And watching that play out, seeing this incredible man become this terrible villain is like nothing else. Kaylin, if you vote him out, when you finish Red Dead 2, you're going to apologize. You're going to say, no, Matan, I'm sorry, you were right.
You might be right, but I can't do it. I'm sorry, I can't. I gotta vote for him.
Adriana?
I'm voting for Jefferson.
Ooh, a twist.
Yeah, I mean, he's terrifying. I definitely shat my pants. It sickens me to think that there are very comparable serial killers in real life, because this is, a pretty good approximation of it.
He's smaller scale.
He is.
And I was going to say, we're going for the best video game villain of all time.
It's not Mark Jefferson. Yeah,
it's not Mark Jefferson, right?
A good point.
Like, he's a great villain. I think we got a little caught up in like, he's a great villain, but he's not the best
video game
villain.
I know we're gonna get hate. We're gonna get hate for not including Bowser or Ganon. Bowser's boring. Bowser's got great design. Bowser's boring. I almost included Ganon because I think Calamity Ganon is very cool. But I think
they just didn't.
Good.
We had different passions.
We did. I was going for horror games. Yeah.
I mean, and it's spooky season, so like, we were going for the scary vibes.
Yeah, I think we were going for the more scary. Maybe we should have called the scariest villain of all time.
That would have been different. That would have turned out differently. That's good. You're right. Maybe we should have. That would have been different.
Yeah.
If you want it, comment it, and we'll have a whole new.
I don't think we've fully gone best villain of all time here. I think we've kind of done a like coolest villain. I don't know, because we haven't really
the best.
You're right. I think you're right.
I mean, maybe
though.
Mark made it too far for best villain. Maybe
I think he did make it a little. I think I love Mark Jefferson. I think I probably would have Mr. X would have gone further, but I think you're right. Yeah. Mark Jefferson's fantastic. I think he's got to go.
Because again, if we're looking at best villain, again, I got to go back. I got to think. I think Valentini would have been better as a villain.
Yeah.
I think we just got caught up a little too much in that.
But you know what? They all got cut anyways.
They did.
Sure.
You know what? It's fine.
So it's just the order of operations would have differed slightly.
Yes.
You're right. But now we are to 2.
Mm-hmm.
Game set.
I mean, my pitch.
Match point, I mean.
Yeah, my defense for Handsome Jack is that he is the villain for the entire planet. You know, like he is the antagonist. This man uses his daughter like a computer. When she dies, he replaces her. Like
You're
he
right.
is Stone Cold Killer, also Stone Cold Fox.
No, his face is coming
It's pretty
off.
spicy. Okay, but like
It's
without
grimy.
his face, like but like his AI is like
His AI is
his
fine.
face when it's not fucked up is great. Okay.
Yeah, okay. I say Handsome Jack is a strong contender. I think I'm glad he made it to the last 2. He is, fucked up, immoral, has depth. You get to play as him in the pre-sequel. He's like very different. He again, iconic. And I like your quote, the one that you read about the last line about him. He really does think he's the hero, and
and
Dutch,
I think that makes a strong villain.
for sure. Dutch does believe he's doing the right thing, of course, but he doesn't think he's a hero. Like, he cares about his people.
Yeah.
And Jack is really trying to change the world. And that's
Mhm.
different. That's a different approach.
But that's my point. I think because one of them has a larger scale, they have a larger impact, and I think that makes him the
True.
best villain.
Large villain.
But Dutch is intimate. Like, Handsome Jack, you, the character, don't really see his descent. As far as you know it, he's like, not as far, you know that he was different, but like, you've always seen him as this crazy serial killer, like, not serial killer, just like maniac who commits genocide after genocide, like killing thousands of people on a whim. And Dutch is an idealist who went too far. Dutch is a person who does care about the people around him, but his fears and his anxieties get the best of him.
I maybe
He's
I maybe have a different way to think about this though.
What's that?
So one way to think of the best villain, right, is the person that needs to be removed from the world, right? Like, if you were a hero, this is the person you're gonna go try and defeat. So who needs killing more? Handsome Jack or Dutch?
Yeah, all right. Yeah, Handsome Jack needs killing more. That's true, but I don't want to put too much emphasis on scale just because I don't think that is the most important part of a villain. I don't disagree. I don't want to ignore it, but I just think like Dutch's descent and then the cruel, fucked up things he does to the people around him, the people he enables, like that to me marks a very compelling villain.
I agree with you. I also think Jack does the same thing, but worse. I mean, he
But
fucks
less
up the
interesting.
people around him.
He does, but he's not as like.
But we're not talking about most interesting right here. We're talking about just best, period.
Like,
It
he
doesn't matter
corrupts
how it
everyone.
happened. It doesn't matter how we got there, the story that took us there. It's
Like, everyone in Hyperion is out for themselves because that's the work environment he fosters. Like, he is evil.
I think it's gotta go to Handsome Jack.
All right.
I think Dutch might be a better character, better arc. I don't know. I'm not super familiar with either. I definitely know more about Handsome Jack, but I think Handsome Jack has to win this.
Okay. All right. I understand.
It's a tough one.
It has to be. This is not like the swords, man. Buster Sword. I will die on that hill. Buster Sword is the coolest video game sword. I will always believe that. But I understand Handsome Jack being the best video game villain.
Yeah. I mean, I think we also could have easily had this debate over like GLaDOS. Like, there are 100 different ways to approach villains, and what makes them the best can be really subjective.
You're right.
So this is just our take. This is our hot take.
Yeah, we got kind of an interesting take. I think we all kind of came at this different ways. And I think that's how we ended up on Handsome Jack. Because I'm glad I like our decision, but I also don't know if he is the best villain of all time. But I think he is I don't know what
he's the best one that we could agree on.
He's the best one we could agree on. But he's also, I think he is I struggle to say coolest, but like.
Well, he's a dope villain.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, he is. He's very dope.
He's hilarious. He's sarcastic. Like
I don't know
he's
the right adjective I'm
persuasive.
looking for. Yeah, because like we
He was
all
a
come
good-
at this with such different perspectives,
True.
and I think
Yeah.
that's why we came to such a like it was so hard to come to such a conclusion.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know if best is the right adjective here, but
Our
that's what
pick
we decided on.
for
And
best, at
Handsome
least,
Jack is the best villain.
Our best.
Our best villain.
is Handsome Jack from Borderlands. You heard it here first,
You
folks.
heard it here.
Well,
And you know what? I think a lot of people would agree. He's
I think
one
so.
of the most iconic villains too. Like it's not like we picked Mark
there's a
Jefferson.
reason for that. Yeah, there's a reason. You know, again, iconography shouldn't be everything, but there's a reason that he's iconic. It's true.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm
And I
glad
think-
Mark Jefferson made it to third place. I don't know.
That's
how-
impressive.
shout
It's
out.
Very impressive. Looking back,
Yeah.
I don't know how it happened. Again, we were all in different thoughts there.
Yeah.
Don't come
Good
at
for
us for saying Mark Jefferson is the third best video game villain of all time.
Shout out to Don't Nod, a good ass villain.
I mean, he's a great villain, and if
Yeah.
you're just thinking like real life serial killers,
Yeah.
he's terrifying.
Yeah. Probably not better than GLaDOS, but like
Yep.
to us, to
Yep.
our fears, he's a great villain.
Exactly. See, I think we were looking at it like in our fears of like who would be the best villain to us,
Yeah.
to like if we were to face them personally. Maybe that's what
Yeah,
we
Dutch.
should call it.
Yeah, Dutch
Our
is scary, man.
best villains of who we would personally face.
I
Dutch-
probably would have picked Stefano.
Yeah.
That's
his
fucking
minions
horrifying.
are too much for me.
No,
I
that's-
can't.
but like intellectually, like Dutch is scary because he's real.
Yeah,
Like-
that too. And like he's your friend and then ends up not being, like, that's terrifying.
And he's
Yeah.
and he cares. It's just like when your own ideas get twisted by the world, like that's horrifying.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that just about does it for this week.
Yeah.
But Handsome
Man, we
Jack is a
ran
better
long.
villain. So
What?
Handsome Jack is a better villain. So
Handsome Jack is the best villain.
You won this time.
yeah.
We thank you very much for watching and listening. We put out our podcast every Friday. You can find it wherever you get podcasts or on YouTube with a video element. We have some exciting new content coming down the line, something besides a podcast or Twitch or live streaming. I know, pretty revolutionary.
I mean, even our live streaming, our Twitch streaming is pretty new. So
That's true. Check out our Twitch streams. I have not started yet. I am in the process of building a PC. Take a look. Some of my parts
Boo.
just arrived.
boo, you
From
suck.
Newegg.
Be faster.
I hope my address wasn't in there.
Everyone go stalk Matan.
Oh dear Lord.
Stalker.
Dress up like Josh or Wendigo.
Yeah. But Caitlin and Adriana have been Twitch streaming very regularly. Go check them out. You can find that in the description, along with our socials, so you can keep updated on any announcements we make or whatever is coming down the pipeline. You guys have any last, things you want to say before we sign off?
We love you.
Yeah.
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 Mark Jefferson is a terrifying villain.
True.
Yeah, stay safe during spooky season.
Don't
Is
get
it?
kidnapped by a photographer serial killer.
Mm-mm.
Oh, don't. Oh, man. Fuck. I have to change some
When
words. I'm
someone
sorry.
says you're really pretty, I'm a talent agent. Could we have like a photo shoot? Just say no.
Say no.
Just
You're
say
not
no.
that pretty.
No.
I'm
Well-
just kidding. You're beautiful.
We will see you all next time.
Bye.